All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new, I call this a season? No, it's just a new quarter. Next
Call it a
year would
season.
be, right? We call it,
I'm
we
not-
call it a season?
Call it a season.
Season
Call it a
two.
All right,
Season two.
fine.
Yeah, season 2.
Call it, yeah, okay, fine. And welcome to a new season of podcasts from the Arcadia High School Creative Musical Arts and Sciences program. We are in our second quarter of school for the 2020-2021 school year. This is our first week back in person. And ironically, we're doing this one remotely, which is fine. We're using a modified kind of hybrid schedule and all that fun stuff. But we have started doing things differently than we were for the last 2 quarters, I guess you could say. We are starting live shows. If you were able to catch the live stream yesterday on this same YouTube channel, arcadiacmas.com/YouTube, or at arcadiacmas.com, we did our first show live on our soundstage yesterday. We were very careful. If you watch it, you'll notice that there's kind of separate setups. Everybody had separate microphones. Everybody had their own kind of area. And we set it up very carefully behind the scenes as well. Masks, social distancing, all that stuff. But it was cool to be back in the room. Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us. Thank you to Elias and to Jose and to my buddy George, who's got what just happened? Where is he?
I messed up.
Barry, that's all right. So I just thought it would be kind of fun, and we may have some other folks joining us as we go. I thought it might be kind of fun just to chat a little bit today about just the different things that have been going on with this. I think it's interesting to me. So Jose, you have, folks may or may not know, but in our district for high school students, you had some options, and there were. I'm not sure how I feel about my head being. What's going on here? I'm literally being overtaken by CMAS. Like, I mean, that was always the joke in the first place, but now it's. Wow, this is me if I was like in the. Wait, where is it? Like 70s Afro.
This is what we were going to talk about today. Was Maxwell's slowly
Maxwell's
deteriorating
origin story.
I'm losing whatever it was. I'm losing it, and
He's losing it.
Yeah. But, no. So Jose, you actually opted to stay home for the duration, regardless of when we might have come back in person. Which is totally cool. My only regret is I don't get to see you as often, and we talk. You a message that bums me out, but I get it. The other two, you guys have been in what we called EDL, which was enhanced distance learning, but with the option then coming back in person when we did. I am curious. I actually want to start with you, Jose. What's it been like, the last quarter?
A lot of sleepless nights because I procrastinate a lot.
Okay.
So every tomorrow turns into tomorrow. So I'll get an assignment, I'll say tomorrow or a little bit later. And actually, tonight I gotta stay up, turn about a week's worth.
Okay, but you know what? Self-awareness and all that. At least you're aware of the problem. I guess I meant more though, like
on the musical side of stuff, creative side of stuff.
How's it feel in terms of the experience?
It's funky in a good way.
Okay.
It feels a lot more. It feels like I have a lot more free time.
Okay.
When I get stuff done. And I get to help around the house a lot more, so that's good.
Okay. Sure. Absolutely.
Haven't had as much time to do the music part of stuff because of school.
Right.
Sometimes it takes up a lot of stuff. Sometimes it takes up no space at all. but it's been a good experience.
Good. And to be fair, there isn't really any significant option in the current environment that you're in to have the kind of even the modified musical experience that we're doing, with the rest of the program. So I get,
Yeah.
there's a little bit of an out of sight, out of mind. And like you said, there's a lot to do, even if you are procrastinating occasionally.
Not
There's a lot.
occasionally,
Well, I was trying to help you out there, but that's fair.
nah.
But no, seriously, I mean, it's a lot to do. Elias, George, what do you think? I mean, what's it like coming back? Like, how's that been feeling?
It's weird. It's
Yeah.
nice to be back around like actual people, but it's a little sketch. But I'm not paranoid or worried about necessarily getting sick or anything like that, because I feel like if everybody does what they're supposed to be doing, it's going to be okay. It's just weird to be back. It's been a long time since we've been back in person.
Yeah, it has. I mean, I've wondered if, like, I think this week went relatively well, all things considered. And I wonder if part of that, I have this theory for myself that if we had gone back in August, it would not have gone this smoothly.
No, because nobody would have. The fact that we were gone for so long made people actually, like, for the first time in our lives, start to miss school for some of us.
Yeah.
So I think we want to do everything we can to keep it this way.
Sure.
So
Well, and it's actually, now that I think about it, all three of you are actually in unique situations. So, Jose, you're in online only, which is totally cool.
Yeah.
George, you've been in EDL and have just returned to in-person this week. But Elias, your school schedule is technically split. You're in a third circumstance where you are part of Arcadia, but half your day you're also part of EVIT, which is East Valley Institute of Technology. So you've been in person
for a while.
and you're doing like medical stuff, right?
Yeah, EVIT, I'm doing the intro.
Can you help whatever?
That's out of my scope of practice.
Fair enough. Good answer. No, but in all seriousness, but my point, kidding aside, is that you've actually been, at least this last quarter.
We've been back in person since the beginning of the year. We started in person at EVIT the second week of August, or like the second week of going back to school in August. So we never really took any time off.
Okay.
This
Does that
semester.
feel different?
It is different because it's one class. I'm not transitioning. I'm not seeing people I really know. I have one teacher. It's one classroom for like almost 3 hours, and then we leave directly from there and we go home, or to our home school. So there's not like at Arcadia, it's transitioning between periods and excuse me, transitioning between periods and having different teachers and different classrooms. So it's different circumstance under these weird circumstances.
Right. No, I actually, part of me was also thinking, wow, if I could have each of you here for a 3-hour block. Oh my God. I mean, I'm loving the 73-minute thing, I'll be honest with you, which is vastly more. I have friends that teach in various school districts around the country, and they have always had a larger block. In some cases, 90 minutes was standard, and I am just always jealous of that. I am always so enamored with the idea. 3 hours would be just, oh man, could you imagine what we could do? George.
What's up?
So you and I share the experience in that this was our first week back to in-person learning of any kind.
It was, yeah.
How did it feel being back?
I guess it was sort of like for me it's I guess I think it's gonna be a good transition because like while we were at home doing online, I was sort of like not as productive as I could have been when it comes to music and stuff. And so now that I have other people around me to sort of push me to actually make stuff, then I feel like I'm gonna get more done.
Sure. And just to be clear, this whole week, you guys are not the only students who say it's like almost like, and I've actually gotten this over the 2 quarters too, of students like, I guess, feeling almost, I don't know, guilty or something, like, which makes me feel bad, because none of this is about, that part of it. It's just, you do what you can do as you can do it. Creativity is, the creative process, I should say, is so contingent on what your life is currently like. You can't really, you can muscle through. I personally feel, I should say, you can muscle through things to a point, but only to the extent of, like, on some level, they become just sort of like pedantic exercises. You're not really being fully creative. And, maybe you get push yourself through a moment, but to really, like, I don't know how, like to me, like, you have to be sort of free and open. So the stress is what I'm getting to. This has all been very, very stressful. I think, watching all of you cope with it in different ways. I think there's a little bit of, everybody's, at least a friend of mine commented, like, the whole pandemic has, like, made everybody, like, at least like a quarter depressed than they might otherwise be. Just like at least.
Yeah. My therapist
Yeah.
is doing a thesis on it, actually, about
Oh,
like
really?
the effects of the pandemic and how it affects everyone differently. And
Yeah,
one of the
that's
things
great.
was Jorge was kind of talking about was just like how we all feel like we should be being so productive because we have all this time at home, or like we had all that time at home before we went back in person, but we're not doing anything. But we feel
Right.
like we should be super productive because we have all this time on our hands, but it doesn't work that way.
Well, that, and also, don't you feel like then it snowballs? Like, if you start
Yeah.
a premise and then you don't do anything, and then you're like, oh my gosh, I'm wasting all this time, which
Yeah.
then just feeds into the whole, okay, I'm sorry, it's just weirding me out too much. I'm gonna, it's like the most non-musical background ever, but that's okay. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I sit at that white table.
Yeah, you do. You sit right there.
I do.
Right there. You sit right there. And just glare at me the whole time. It's very uncomfortable. I got to be honest with
Maxwell
you.
put me in a corner
He
It's not
did.
so much a
all
corner.
by myself.
It's not really a corner so much as it is a 90-degree angle that you face.
That's a corner, Maxwell. That's a
It's
corner.
really it's different. It has a, it has a thing.
Certain
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's very geometrically balanced. I mean, there is that. Okay, so, but actually, Elias brings up an interesting point. So, and you guys have all alluded to it. So, in terms of being creative, do you think there's something to the notion that we actually thrive a little bit when we feel, I don't want to say pressure, but when you feel like a little bit of a, like, does it drive you more when you don't have unlimited options? Does that make a difference? Or does it just create pressure?
No, because without like a school schedule, I don't get work done nearly as efficiently. Like that's something I really struggled with the online classes was like, especially in the beginning before we were doing like the scheduled Zoom classes, I totally spiraled everything out of control because there was no schedule to like have things done by a certain time. So just wait, procrastinate because I'm a horrible procrastinator, like Lopez down there. So
Hey,
You're
come
not
on.
alone with that, and I think there is something. I can't cite particular data, but I'm sure it's out there that there is a connection between your level of creativity and your procrastination.
oh yeah, I'm sure.
I'm sure it's there because I've not met anyone who's not, like, it seems like there's a connection somewhere. I just feel there's some universal truth about that. I don't know exactly what it is, but I'm convinced it exists. What about you two guys? I mean, do you feel like, in a way, you've alluded to it, but do you feel like that was, like, ironically, the flexibility and the freedom was actually a hindrance?
Yeah, procrastination, and man, it hurts sometimes.
I mean,
Most of the time it does.
I feel like a lot of the time when it's up to you to do stuff on your own, it can get a little messy. But when you
Sure.
have like a structure to follow, then it's a little easier to get things done.
Okay. Let me ask you another question then. Going, and I'm making an assumption here, so if it's not correct, that's okay. But it sounds to me like on some level you went into the quarantining situation with you had some kind of plan, or you had a goal, or you kind of thought, you're like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna at least make something positive out of this, and I'm gonna use this time to do this thing. Right. So then, as we just discussed, for whatever reason, didn't happen, or did not happen as you wanted it to, or as you anticipated it would. And no judgment, none of that. But what I'm wondering is, now that you're back potentially, and Jose, I'm going to actually ask you a follow-up here.
All right.
But for certainly for Elias and for George, do you get like the sense that if you went back now and reconsidered that goal, would you now be able to do it? Or did enough time pass that you're kind of like, I don't know if I want to do that goal anymore anyway. Like I'm ready to like, do you need to move to another thing, or can you still accomplish the creative goal you had set out?
I feel like there's still an opportunity to look back at those goals and accomplish them, because I mean, you look back in retrospect and you see that like you didn't get anything done, perhaps, let's say that's the condition, and you can look back and say, oh, it'd probably be a lot better off if I actually did those things. So now you have a chance to do it now that you aren't like I don't know how to say it, but like you're more used to it, I guess.
You know, like being thrown in the deep end and expected to figure things out, because that's what kind of happened with all of us because nobody knew what to do. We hadn't set up any of this EDL stuff, and nothing was working properly. The teachers didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do. So, well, I mean, a lot of you didn't. Like, you didn't know how to like transition to an online platform. It didn't. I mean, you were the fastest to make it functional, I think. Out of all my teachers, personally.
I mean, no, I appreciate that.
No, I'm serious, because like you started doing this podcast and those shows pretty quickly, and it became workable really fast. But for like a lot of the other core classes, it didn't happen that fast, and stuff was just a mess for everyone. Pardon me.
You know, I think some of that is like the growing pains of the circumstance. But I wonder, like to be honest, like the podcast, for example, that we're doing now and that we've been doing pretty much every week. I mean, we took the break in the summer, obviously, and we took the break over fall break, but just the concept of them. Mm-hmm. Some of that was, I was just throwing things out there, trying to see what would stick. Mm-hmm. The idea of the weekly shows, I thought about, well, okay, jam sessions are gone. And, all those gigs that we, even the throwaway gigs that we would just kind of, hey, somebody just called and wants this or that, or can we go do it? And, a few of you would be like, sure, I got nothing better going on. We'll throw some gear in a vehicle, or, we'll get one of those, the
activity
buses and blah, 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 blah. But I do think that it is interesting in the context of watching how it's evolved. And now it kind of feels like, there aren't a ton of you on this podcast, but the fact that we're doing one, the fact that we're like, it seems to serve a bigger picture. The other part of it too, as far as making things happen, is this has never been the kind of program where you were obligated to be in the performances. And in some ways, this is a performance. And I have some students that every week when I talk about the podcast, just the whole thing still freaks them out. Just the idea of like a public. And I think it's interesting that like you guys, it doesn't bother you. Like you don't even like really blink.
It used to. I didn't do any of the podcasts in the beginning. I don't know if you remember, but I didn't do a single podcast until like this year and like a few weeks into the year, I think.
You didn't do any in fourth quarter? Yes, you
I
did.
didn't. No, I didn't. I did a show. I think I did like.
That's okay. That's fair. You did a couple of shows.
I think I did 2 shows. I didn't do very many of those either, and one of those was the songwriter night. So I really didn't do a lot. I don't know. It was very because I didn't. It was a new platform, and I didn't really know what to like.
Okay, that's fair.
Expect. But once I did it, now I love doing these.
That's fair. So that's interesting.
I
So
feel like, oh, sorry.
no, go, please.
I feel like it sort of speaks to the creative experience. You know, like at first, like it may seem scary to like put yourself in that vulnerable position, whether it be on a stage or something, or behind a mixing board, because you have a lot of power in your hands. But I feel like
Very true. Good point. Yeah.
But I feel like once you do it enough times and you see what works and what doesn't, then it just sort of becomes less of an issue, you know.
Sure. That's a really, really good point. Jose, I'm wondering, and I did not forget about you. I'm wondering if, because your situation's obviously different.
Yeah.
We're not back. You're still online. Or sorry, we are back. You're still online, and you're in a different curriculum and in a different. I mean, you're part of the school.
I'm just not part of the program.
But you're not part of the program officially, which kind of breaks my heart. But you are obviously still part of the program in the sense that because you're here, and you and I have been chatting.
I'm here.
And I am very excited for when we are all done with this, and you are back in the program and doing stuff with us, and you know that you're always welcome. But I guess what I'm wondering is knowing. And I know you said about the procrastination thing and having to get yourself focused and all that, and I'm not discounting any of that, but I'm just honestly wondering, like, knowing that you were going to start online and essentially see this whole situation through online. Do you think that in some ways that gave you and I'm not sure, maybe it's a disadvantage. I'm wondering though, is it an advantage in the sense that like you didn't have to worry about there was not like it's a Friday afternoon, so my words are kind of failing me more than but like you didn't have like any kind of like panic element or like nervousness, right? You know, like once you were like, I'm going to be online, you know, I know these other two and a lot of students, there was a whole lot of, okay, well, what's this going to be like? And is this actually going to be safe? And are we going to be able to do this? And what's, I mean, and on and on and on. And all, to be fair, I think legitimate things. But what I'm wondering is, as somebody who knew you were going to see it through in the online modality, did you have any kinds of ups and downs regarding this?
At first, I really wanted to go back, do EDL, but then some stuff happened and I couldn't do that anymore. I had to keep my family safe because I didn't know how it was gonna plan out. So I said, all right, let's do online. And then I said, I don't want to do online, but they had already set me up, so I just went with it. And I've just been riding the wave ever since. Going back to your question of if I had like any goals when quarantine started, yes, I did, and I already did it. So I'm just looking for something else. Okay. What do you? I've already made cereal, so I'm just looking for something else.
There you go. That's fair. I guess I don't know. I think a lot of this is. I've begun to wonder if some of this is just ultimately going to come down to. This is terribly generalized, but certain personality elements, almost like if you are in general prone to finding ways through solutions or finding ways through, not through solutions, finding ways to solutions, finding way through issues and problems and kind of being like, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter so much to me what the creative thing is, as long as the creative thing happens. You know, I wonder if that was really bizarre for some reason to me. We went behind the sandwich bowl soup thing and then
sandwich.
Turn off the skeleton.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, I don't know. I'm very curious when this is all said and done, how this will have affected people's creativity. I find it very interesting. For example, most of you that have been around, and I say most of you in the sense of students in general, not just you three, because you three have been around. There's an expectation when you would come into CMAS of certain resources available. Workstations, instruments, microphones, all kinds of gear, all kinds of equipment, all kinds of design capability stuff. I mean, there's just tons of stuff usually.
Yeah.
And we cleared it all out. I mean, like literally everything out of necessity. I was very curious on day one what that would be like, because I kind of thought, you know, is that going to be sort of like is that going to be the thing that sort of gets everybody over the edge or pushes everybody over the edge of like the sort of, okay, we'll make it work? Or, you know, and it's interesting why, like everybody's kind of come in and they just sort of looked around and be like, that's kind of makes sense. Okay. What can we do? Using Soundtrap instead of Pro Tools right now. I love Soundtrap for what it is. I'd rather have you in Pro Tools. I don't think the guys that have, and women who have, the people that designed and run Soundtrap, I don't think they're going to try to tell us that we should use it instead of Pro Tools. They get it. But I do think it's interesting that this whole scenario kind of like, one of you was saying is sort of like you start to feel like, well, wait a minute, what can I do? As opposed to, I can't. The procrastination thing, I think, is a separate thing. But I have that problem too. I went home last night thinking I'm going to get all this work done and then I'm going to work on this one project. And then I just literally kind of didn't. I got the work done and then I was like, apparently I'm not going to work on this other project.
It really do be like that sometimes.
It really do.
Yeah, sorry.
One thing about online school is you get a 7-day grace period after an assignment is late. So I've been abusing the hell out of that.
Yeah, me too. We have two e-learning. I have two e-learning classes, and the 7-day grace period is.
And I think one of my teachers waived the 7 day. They said, "I'm not doing that anymore because I messed up."
Yeah, it's a bit. I think
it's a funky
more
little
harm
website.
than good for me.
It really does.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. Well, you guys know, I mean, I've always had a very sort of self-regulated late work policy where it's more about the accountability factor. But, to be fair, I'm not a core, I'm an elective and I'm an entirely project-based elective for you guys. So late work has a different, meaning like some of the technical stuff, like, how does this piece of gear work, that piece of gear work, that stuff maybe fits into that sort of normal category. But most of the stuff, when you do something late, the repercussions they sort of like, it's almost like you don't need a penalty and you don't need me dogging you about when are you turning in, because it has this ripple effect on the rest of your project. And if you're, in the rest of your group that you're collaborating with and everything else, but it's almost like by the time you get to me messaging you about it, I can imagine it must be like, kind of like, I get it. I don't really, you're not helping.
Yeah.
So, but that is, that's a separate thing. So we're just about out of time. I want to ask you, all three of you, one question.
One question.
Know what you know now, having experienced what you've experienced in the last, 6 months or so?
I think.
Something around there.
6 years.
Fair enough.
5 winters.
What you'll just in your own sense of whatever, what do you feel is a realistic goal for yourself creatively between now, let's just say the end of the semester? Like I'm not going to hold you to it like for a grade. I'm just curious, like knowing what you know now about kind of how things work. Yes, we're back in person, but this isn't like it was in February. This just isn't that. This is not our Nashville trip. This is not our, wouldn't it be cool to be back in Blackbird Studios right now? But having been through this, what's a creative goal for December for you?
For me personally, it's not really more like an end product sort of thing. Although I do want to at least get a couple songs written, but I feel like me personally, a goal that I have in mind is I need to stop like starting projects and then going to work on something else. Because a lot of the time I start writing something and then I like make something else and then I forget about the original idea and it's just a cycle of nothing getting done.
Is that because you're so, and I'm not being funny here, is that because you're so caught up in so many ideas, or is it because you get bored easily with the old one?
I think it may be a little mix of both, but it's mainly just because I'm always coming up with so much stuff. I don't know what to put my time into.
Sure. So for what it's worth, I'm not so sure you should stop that. I would say maybe we need to talk about more efficient ways of maybe organizing that and maybe a more efficient way of getting those ideas out, more quickly so that you can go back to the other ideas. But I don't, as you're describing that, I don't personally like the idea of anything that causes you to potentially diminish an idea or stuff it, because you'll lose them. And if you're in a place right now where you're getting idea after idea after idea, I don't think the solution to that is to repress them. I think the solution is to figure out how do you access them in a way that's more efficient on your time so that you still can focus on the other projects. Almost like maybe there's like an A list and a B list. The A list is, this is something I'm working on, this is something I want to do, and the B list is more of a, I don't know what this is, I'm not even gonna worry about what this is, it's just that it is. And at some point,
Right.
I'm gonna probably be like, I need another idea to go with this other thing or whatever, and I'm just gonna have a catalog of it. I'm gonna have a giant library of ideas or themes or whatever, but I'm not gonna worry right now about what they are or specifically what they might be used for. I'm just gonna let them, like I said, just let them exist.
Yeah.
That might be worth considering. But I like the idea of getting some more stuff that you feel it's done. I do think that there's merit to it. I don't want you to creatively stifle anything ever in the process. If those ideas are coming out, get them into a notebook, get them down, and then come back to the other stuff.
You are 100% right, my man. I don't know what I tried to say there.
That's all good. It's kind of you to say that. What about the other two of you? What do you think? What's the goal for December?
You go. I ain't going.
So for me, we were talking about this earlier. I want to start scheduling out my recordings my goal is to like get a recording done every week, at least one every week, because I write a new song at least like once a week, at least one once a week. So if I could record at the same pace that I write, like record old ones after I've written a new one, I feel like I would have a lot more complete stuff instead of just the ideas.
Yes, the only thing I would, and you and I have been talking about this for a while about trying to find a way to make your process feel more efficient for you. But the only thing I would personally say about that is just kind of similar to what I was saying before, which is don't create a scenario for yourself where, oh shoot, well it's Sunday and I'm not quite done with this. I better just burn, or maybe do that, but with the understanding that these recordings might be glorified demos at best.
Right. Even if it's just like basically a scratch track, I just want to have them out of the notebook and like with at least an instrument, so I have an idea where I want to go with it.
And also, and it's funny, and this might actually help you as well, George, the idea of your the notion of your ideas, they almost like they bottleneck inside you because you don't get them out enough. It's like, I don't know if you've tracked this or not, but is it possible that you've got the same idea kind of resurging each? Do you know what I mean?
Sometimes I do. I will sometimes if I get a new idea that's kind of similar to one I have in the past. Sometimes I like scrap through old songs or old lyrics that I didn't really like that idea. It was an idea I liked, but I didn't like how that ended up being presented. So I'll like pick apart certain lyrics or certain pieces of that and bring it into the new idea, and then it's something I actually like.
Right, and that's good. I'm also wondering. I mean, because that may lead to more potent material. I'm also wondering, George, if that might solve your problem a little bit. This idea that like you get an idea and then you move on, you get an idea and you move on. I wonder if there's, I mean, I have all these weird theories about what music actually is and how it sort of like interfaces with us as the creator part of it. And the person who's composing the music, I sometimes feel like is almost like it's more like a partnership between you and the music, and you have to figure out what it's trying to say to you almost.
Yeah.
Part of me wonders if when you have these moments of distraction or these moments of I don't know, creative chaos where there's too many ideas to keep track of, it almost makes me wonder if that's how the ideas are trying to tell you something. Like if that's an actual.
It's all just one unit of ideas.
Yeah, I mean, there's a possibility that what's happening is that you're subconsciously, it's like it keeps coming back because you're not like there's only so many red flags and flashing lights they can put in front of you. You're like,
right.
Oh, what else do you want? And until you recognize that, maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like sometimes that happens. Like, I'll start a song, say, let's say I'll start a song, maybe like a week later, I'll be playing it just out of nowhere, just because it sounds cool or because I have fun with it,
Right.
And I'll come up with a different part to it, which I don't in the moment necessarily see it as a part of that song.
Sure.
But I feel like now that you mentioned that idea of yours, I feel like I need to be more aware of how different fit together.
Well, that's the thing is that, I mean, who knows? Honestly, at the end, who knows? But I do think that my gut says is that if there's something that's reoccurring in some capacity, it's probably happening for a reason. Right. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think creativity happens in a vacuum. And if you start there as your premise, which I'm not saying you have to, but if you do, then it seems to me that there aren't a whole lot of other options left.
Right.
And I don't think it's random, and I don't think it's.
I think that's why my songs tend to be longer or very, I don't know, lyrically dense. They're kind of just like Franken songs, for lack of a better term, because I have like little ideas, and it's not quite enough to be a full project.
Right.
I have a couple short ones, but I do prefer the longer ones. I think it just feels better.
What might be kind of fun? You take an idea and you just it's unfinished. It's just literally the spark of something, and you give it to somebody else, and you don't tell them anything about it, and you let them take it and see what they do with it.
Well, I've been wanting to do that with Percy because he's an amazing writer, and I know he would be really, really good at that.
There you go. Yeah, we were talking about that. I think that there's something of value to
different perspective.
Yeah, and like collaborations that are done in a way that's unique. Jose, we're losing you.
Hi.
Close this out, buddy. What's the goal for you creatively?
Down the path until December. That's a whole lot of time.
December. I'm going to narrow your field of your scope here?
That's a whole lot of time, Maxwell. I'm trying to make a cover and an original song in a couple of months, as like a more focused goal. Like in general, just get either comfortable with singing or presenting stuff that I've made.
Okay. Those are probably related.
Probably are.
In the self-confidence
They
part.
definitely are.
More than likely are.
I will say this: there have been, and I remember you turned just like a white as a sheet when it happened. But I've heard you sing because there was a track that you sang on, and you guys had asked me to fix it in the control room to help you out. I wound up isolating your voice unintentionally. No,
you did.
Isolated it, but I did not intend for it to move you out. But it did.
Yeah, I remember that, Maxwell.
I'm sure you do. The trauma is probably still pretty raw. I'm sorry about that, but more importantly, honestly, your voice was pretty cool. It worked. The problem for you, I think, is you lack. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you believe that what you're going to do is going to be substandard for any reason, legitimate or not, if you believe that what you're going to do is substandard, then what happens is it's substandard.
It's bad. If I believe what I'm going to do is bad, it turns out bad. Got you on that.
Especially the human voice in singing is the absolutely most nerve-wracking, difficult instrument, period.
Temperamental.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also, it is the most personal. It just is. I don't care how good you are on any other instruments. I don't care how much of a virtuoso you are. There is something about the human voice that is both magical, but also kind of terrifying if you're not ready.
Used to it. Yeah, I'm not used to like presenting stuff I've made to like podcasts and stuff, when it was a live stream concert. When we had the concert fourth quarter, I was very much screaming when my thing was over.
No, I know. But you know what was interesting to me about that? I remember this very clearly. You were determined to have something on that show.
Yeah.
But see, that to me is the more important part of it, is that you were determined to make that happen. And so that tells me that no matter what else happens, you kind of just by seeing it, I don't know if you remember, we talked about this a little bit, you and I, in May during that show, just beforehand, because you're like, I'm not sure. And I was like, no, you need to just do it.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, on some level, I'm sorry, it doesn't actually matter if it's, quote, good or bad. I mean, who knows what those words mean anyway? And who cares? It's a waste of a conversation as far as I'm concerned.
It's progress.
Yeah. All right. Progress. It's all.
There are plenty of beginning performances that I hated that I know for a fact objectively did not go well, but it helped me become more confident. So.
And that's the thing is that you just, the same thing when we talk about writing stuff, and I'll talk to you guys about the idea of stop being a producer, stop edit, just let the idea exist. And then go back if you want to nitpick it and pull it apart and rebuild it and reshape it and whatever. The performing thing to me is the same thing. At some point, you just got to say, I'm going to get up in front of people. And if all I do is get up in front of them and then run away, well, that's still a step in the right direction because at least I got up in front of them. Maybe next time I'll get up in front of them and I'll say hello. And then run off the stage again. I mean, whatever it takes, but you just keep doing it. And it is interesting to me, all three of you have such strong personalities, such amazing creative instincts, and all three of you have had to deal with your own sense of self in terms of how you would build up the confidence to perform or present there. I mean, good Lord, George, you've been in my classes now for 4 years.
It is very true. Yeah.
I'm so about that, but you and I joke about it now, but literally, I think you might have said 4 words in the entire first semester of freshman year.
That is very true. I was a very closed person.
No, but you would sit there clearly knowing all kinds of stuff that was worth contributing. But I get it. You just weren't comfortable doing it. And then we slowly, at the end of that year, and then kind of the floodgates open. These things just take time. That's the other part of it, I think, for you, Jose, is I think that some of it is, I mean, not to sound funny, but you hang out with these two enough, and I could see getting a little frustrated. They just want, no, because you guys
Hanging out with me frustrates me too.
That's not what I meant.
Bro, I hang out with Tallulah and the gang.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, you know, when you're around somebody who appears to have it all together,
A little bit for
they will agree to that or not. If you're
itty bitty.
nice try to get out of that one. No, but if your perception is they have it all together, that can either inspire you or that can intimidate you. And it doesn't really matter if they're your friend or not. It doesn't matter if you get along with them or not. It gets very murky and all kinds of mixed up.
You know, the first couple of concerts, for like the first 2 semesters, I was really intimidated by everyone's like, how am I gonna match up to that? You know?
Oh yeah, me too.
How am I gonna put something that can be at least decent compared to that? And then as we kept going and going, you just kind of gave me this idea of, I can make something. It shouldn't be. It can't be that good, but at least I made something, and that's like what counts as long as I work on getting better.
I was saying good and bad is completely, it's just a waste.
It's just subjective, yeah.
Well, it's not only that it's too subjective, but it also, it dismisses the more important part, which is what were you intending? Now we can talk about, was it effective? We can talk about, was it potent? We can talk about, was it, you know, whatever. But the good or bad part, that's to me, that's an easy way out. It wasn't any good. Like that's
why
waste of, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It just, that to me, it's a cop out. It just is. But anyway, on that note, I am so glad you guys did this. It's so nice to see all three of you, especially you, Jose. I've missed you, buddy.
Thanks. I miss you too.
And I want you to know that, you know, it's 2:30 on Thursdays for the shows, 2:30 on Fridays for the podcast. You're part of the program still. When we're all back, you're back too. So, I mean, you know, it's not like,
right.
not like we're breaking any rules.
If you bring your melodica next time, I'll bring mine.
Hey, there we go. There we go.
I got a saxophone recently as well. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Well, I want to hear some of this. I want to hear some tunes soon. But for now, I want to thank the three of you for joining me today. It's nice to see you guys. It's nice to just do stuff again, you know? It just feels good.
For sure.
And I appreciate y'all so much. And I appreciate everybody who has been watching the shows and going to the website. And everything's up at arcadiacmas.com. And it's just been, it's been awesome. And it's really cool. And I can't wait to keep doing more. We will be back next week. We'll do another live show on Thursday, and we'll do another podcast on Friday. And there's lots of music that we are releasing up at arcadiacmas.com, and there's the recording archives, and just these three are just the tip of the iceberg for this program. But I'm so proud of all of you guys and everybody in the program, and grateful. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon, and we will see you all